All right, buddy. We're going to get started with guy 27 now, the 2009 uh, Mitsubishi, I think a Lancer or something like that. Let's read this story. Hello. I've just recently purchased a car for my friend from a friend of my aunt's neighbor. It looked alright at first, drove nicely. At some point, something cracked. There was smoke, and everything shut down. I was assured it was in great condition and the car didn't require any additional input. It is supposedly to be ready and up to driving for a couple of years. It seems that somebody played an unfunny joke on me. I need this car for next week. I must have a functioning means of transport because of my new job. I don't have time to search for something new now because I'm moving houses soon. Please do what you can so I can drive this car without fear. Change and drain the oil, and there'll be other tests. Pretty similar to the last few guide cars. For somebody who really needs a car, he didn't take care of it. It is filthy. So let's get a wash on. And, we're nice mechanics. We'll vacuum out the interior for him, right? Sure. Now it looks decent. So it doesn't look like we're going to have to do body work, just based on the looks of it. Alright, check the car status. We have 3 pages of repaired parts, not as much, and we'll have to align the wheels. Okay. So going into our car tools, let's check on the onboard diagnostics. Since it's a newer car, it'll have a computer that we can clip into. All right, we got an ECU A, and all spark plugs are bad. Now the ECU just sits on the firewall somewhere, or in this case on the wheel wall, so that's an easy replacement. ECU type A. This you can get as a performance part, so later as you're tuning on your cars, I would buy that as a performance part, but we're not doing that. Okay. So that is fixed. Go back to the tools. Compression test. We can't start it because of the plugs. So just because I want to know if we got to pull the motor, I'm going to pull the plugs. You can tell this fuel filter is bad, so let's just replace on that too. Plugs, we're already in the right spot to buy plugs, so let's just replace the plugs real quick. Ignition coils were actually okay. And then back into the tablet, just type in fuel, and the first option is a filter. Alright, now can we do a compression test? Compression test, still can't be started. Okay, probably because of the starter. Is that repairable? It is not. Go to the electronics store, and we just buy a plain starter. Ah, we already had a plain starter, but that's okay. Car status. Part unmount. Compression test. Still can't be started. Alright. Mount. This tank is bad, and the fuel filter is bad, or fuel pump is bad. Part unmount. Can't drop the tank right now. Part mount. Go back to the car parts store. Fuel. Pump. Will this allow us to do a compression test? Maybe. Right? clearly we don't need to do a compression test, apparently. I honestly just want to do the compression test so that we know if we have to pull the engine and do rings again like we've done on how many of our recent cars. Dude, we got some bad electrodigitals. There's a lot of low numbers there. Fuses, radiator fan housing, and a relay. Okay. So if we go into the fuse box, go to examine mode, see it's the big relay, little box, third and second fuse. Okay. Big one, little one, third, second. Then if we go to part mount, we can just pop in the new ones because we already have these purchased. Now, could I go to part unmount compression test? Hey, there we go. We can compression test now. And it's very low reading already. So this is probably meaning we got rings. Yep, we got rings. Alright, so we're pulling a motor. That's really why I wanted to go through all that rigmarole there at the front end, just to know, do we have to drop this engine and do a full kind of engine overhaul or not? And we do. Tires look okay. And pressure test, which we already did the filter and the pump, so really it should be fairly good. It'll check on the injectors for us, I think. Fuel rail. So yeah, the fuel rail is bad. Where's the fuel rail? Right there. But we're pulling the engine anyway, so we'll get to that. Alright. So we'll go to examine mode. Examine the engine a little bit. You see the nice green parts that we replaced. I think it's going to be basically engine parts, just based on the number of parts, 3 pages of parts. There might be a few suspension pieces that are bad. It looks like they're mostly tested in the yellow. It's based on the previous story cars. Probability is we're going to be dealing with primarily a engine problem on this vehicle. And that kind of lines up with the story that the customer gave us. Yeah, this suspension looks fine. Okay. So let's move the car to the first lifter. It's a front-wheel drive vehicle, so I believe. So probably have to pop the front wheels to get to the... The other thing I want to pull is that fuel tank. I can tell you this fuel tank's bad. 12%. There. Fuel system addressed. Let's pop this wheel off. Should get the oil draining while I'm thinking about it. Move this to there. Drain oil. Now the reason you have to pop the wheels to get to the engine, you got to pull off the drive axles on both sides. Take off the drive shaft, swing over here, and oh, look at this. That ABS pump is bad, or ABS module. I think the pump's the back part, so. Anyway, let's get that starter off. Is this the one where you have to be in the engine compartment to get to the starter? Yep, dang it. I'm gonna pull that ABS unit. Yep, it was bad, the ABS pump. Now, if you go to your store, the electronics store, the ABS pump's one of the first options. Sometimes you'll just, as you start getting used to repairing on these cars, you'll have an idea as you repair cars to say, oh, okay, that looks bad. I'm just going to take care of it right now as I see it. Save you some time of fiddling around with parts. Alright, that oil pan's going to be bad. Let's get the trans off. Okay, now we can pull the motor. Bring it down out of the air. We'll get our cherry picker over to the lift. Front exhaust section needs to come off first. Okay. We should remember that. Which can't pull with it down. My bad. Something you forget sometimes. Probably gonna have to pull that turbo first. Okay. Unbolt the turbo before we can actually pull the front engine section. Just fine. Morning there, Izzy. How are you, buddy? I'm curious, if I just pull the turbo, will it let me pull the engine? No, so I gotta take that front exhaust piece, even though it's unbolted. Alright, front exhaust is off. Why am I pulling the battery? I'm just gonna charge it, because it's right here. And then we'll install the engine. And where are we gonna start? We'll start back. Take off the clutch bearing plate, pressure plate, and flywheel. Alright, then we'll go up top here. We already had replaced on the plugs, just so that we could do that compression test. We know the fuel rail's bad. Well, did I pull the fuel rail yet? You gotta take the intake before you take the fuel rail. Okay. There we go. Fuel rail's out. Let's cover off. Those camshafts look bad. We got to get the timing cover off before we can get to that. Our steering pump, water pump, alternator. like the crank might be bad too. I don't remember if that came up in our diagnostics. It might have, but the crank looks pretty weathered. Grab out the pistons. Alright. Engine broke down. Just popped to a repair bench. Those are the U-bolts we had pulled from our previous build, but I'm just repairing on them now just to add to our inventory. Now again, do you have to repair all of these parts? Absolutely not. You just have to repair the parts that are part of your order. Why am I repairing them? Because I can. It's not a huge expense. You still get profit out of doing the repairs, so I just find it quicker to just repair on them and just be done with it. And what does this take us, an extra minute? Maybe you don't have that extra minute. I get it. It's fine. I do, so I'm repairing. And then we're making sure, hey, this car is in pretty tip-top shape. You're not going to have to deal with bad things going forward for you, right? Oh, we forgot to open our case last time. So we'll have 2 cases this time. That's fine. Let's sort by condition. Yep, we got that up. ECU, we already took care of. Fuel filter, we took care of. Starter, we took care of. Fuses, we're good. Timing belt, we need. I don't remember if we bought a pile of pistons or not. Spark plugs, we took care of. Rings, we have a bunch. Crank, we need. Fuel pump, we already took care of. Oil filter, we'll need. Fuel tank, we took care of. Need a fuel rail, need an oil pan. I think I already added pistons. Alright, the rest of this is reasonable shape. I'm going to get rid of that last piston. Alright. Let's go to our shop. Timing belt we needed. Now, in our inventory, do we have pistons? Got rings. I never bought pistons. Okay. So, again, this is a choice that I'll make. These are the common pistons used in most engines. So I bought a bunch. Did you need to do that at this point? No. Not for this car. You only needed 4. The reason I did it is to set you up for rebuilds for cars that you're going to do later. Just to save you a few steps. Alright, so we got our parts. Let's mount it up. Put on the crank. And then I'll tack the crank down with the bearings first. Now you could make an argument to not buy pistons, because if you're going to do your own restorations, you're probably going to put in the performance pistons, which I agree. But at least if you're doing repairs and maybe your initial restorations where you're not sitting on a ton of money, we're probably just going to use the standard pistons. So these first 50 we bought will probably get you through your first 2 or 3 money builds. Then you can get into buying the performance pistons, which gives you a higher profit margin than standards. All right. Flywheel. I shouldn't have mounted that. Light. Oh, the whole back end of this was just bad. Do the top end of the car here. Okay, front end's there. Wheel rails back in. Got cam gears on. And that timing belt. Timing cover. Crank pulley. Couple of idler rollers. Water pump. Serpentine belt. Tensioner. Actually, I think we could put on the original tensioner, right? Yeah, it's 70% one, that's fine. Serpentine belt. Intake. And a throttle. Exhaust manifold. Cover. And the turbo, I think we have to wait until we're in the car to put that on. So as far as reassembling, we're as good as we can get. Let's pop over here. Install the engine. Move the picker. Back to install. Okay, so we have to get under the engine first, or under the car first. Part mount. Put the trans back in place. Then the drive axles. Pop the wheels on. Okay, wheels are on. Then we can reassemble that front exhaust piece. Then have the battery off the charger. Pull this down. Part mount, put the battery back on. Starter. Turbo. And I think I have all the bolts in. There we go. Then go to part unmount and fill it with oil. And we're pretty sure we're about done with this vehicle. Let's check on the dipstick. It's good to go. Car status. So we're missing the radiator fan housing fan. And that's really it. Which, just pull the radiator fan, part mount. That's the fan we need. So I just go in here to total thing, rad fan, radiator fan, housing fan. All right, the repair is done. And we have to align the wheels, right? So move the car to test path, do a quick wheel alignment. These were really out of alignment. All right, save the game. All right, status, and that is it for guide 27. So Lucas Isaac Parker, I hope you enjoyed this one. We will see you in the next. We'll pop those cases at the start of the next video. You take care.